What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to JJD TV. I'm your host Josh, and our Canadian Men's National Team Abroad series is back, the first one of 2022. We had a nice little break over the Christmas period, but there wasn't a lot of games to really touch on anyways, so this is going to be your guys' Canadian Men's National Team Abroad update from December 28th to January 4th. There's not a crazy amount of games because a lot of the players are still on breaks with their respective clubs, but there are still some fun storylines to cover. So if you guys are just new to the channel, be sure to drop a like on the episode, drop a sub as well, and let's get into the episode now. Alright guys, so as you guys are aware, we like to do our top 5 list, but there's not really a top 5. I mean, a lot of our players are out with different situations. So for this episode, we're just going to go country to country. And we're going to start in England. And we're going to start off with a bang and start with the player that I'm really excited to talk about and excited to touch on. And it's Junior Hoilett. Our man is back and starting. And not only starting, but Junior Hoilett in this match at the weekend started and played all 90 minutes. As a left attacking mid for Reading in a 4-2-3-1 system. He scored 2 goals in the match as Reading went up 2-0, and one of them was an absolute peach of a goal. A beautiful, beautiful hit from outside the 18. Curled it. It just looked like as in form Hoilett as you want to possibly imagine. But unfortunately for Reading, who also had those 6 points deducted from them, looked to be comfortably getting away from those relegations battles, but unfortunately Derby battled back. It ended in a 2-2 draw, and Reading still sit 21st in the standings with an 8-4-11 record on 22 points, only 3 points off relegation places. Now this Reading side is a better side than being in that relegation battle. The 6-point deduction has hurt them as well as some pretty poor form, but it was a tough game because they got such a good start like that, and it's good to see Hoilett back. So from the Canadian perspective, it's exciting, but Reading do have me a little bit nervous that they are just going to get caught in that relegation battle. But hopefully if Hoilett can continue to find his form, find the back of the net, he'll be a big boost to that side along with Andy Carroll to help them get past the relegation battle. Alright guys, staying in England but heading on over to League One. We got a couple players, the two usuals to take a look at. First one being Theo, who had an interesting couple games that we're going to touch on. The first one midweek, he was subbed on in the 59th minute as a wingback in a 3-5-2 system as Sheffield Wednesday lost 5-0 to Sunderland. Not a game Theo or Sheffield Wednesday wants to remember. He didn't have a crazy part of that match considering that he was subbed on when it was 4-0 and the match was pretty much already over. But in the short period of time that he was on, he did have 2 shots. He had 14 touches. He had some decent passing percentages as well. But ultimately, the game was already decided when being subbed on at 4-0. It ended up at 5, and it was just one that everyone in general who's related to Sheffield Wednesday unfortunately wants to forget, but they had the chance to battle back at the weekend. And at the weekend, Theo started and played all 90 minutes as a left wingback in a 3-5-2 system, still having a decent game down the flanks. But at the end, it wasn't enough as Wednesday dropped another big couple points there as they lost 1-0 to Shrewsbury to sit 9th in the table with a 9-10-5 record. They're slipping down. This was a team that was expected to definitely push for some of those promotion places. This is a big club in England, and Darren Moore sometimes just seems like he can't get it right, and this is another big opportunity. These are huge, not only a huge loss to Sunderland, who is a solid team in this league, but then a disappointing 1-0 loss to Shrewsbury, a team that is struggling a little bit. So there's a lot to think about there. It's good to see Corbeano get those 90 minutes in as he is becoming a bit of a fan favorite and getting a lot of minutes out on the wingback positions. Heading on over to Burton Alban and Daniel Jepson. It was a pretty decent little performance for Daniel Jepson. He didn't have a crazy amount of minutes as he didn't start, but he was subbed on in the 74th minute. And in that time, he was able to score a goal, a really nicely composed finish with his left foot in the 90th minute of the match as Burton went on to win 4-1 over Crewe to sit 12th in the table with a 9-4-10 record. Jepson has kind of had those minutes where he's able to start and come off the bench, and a lot of times when Jepson comes off the bench, he makes a big impact. So I'd expect after this goal, it was a nice little run, timed it well, and just a calm, composed finish, which you want to see from your striker. Expect him to probably start the next one because he seems to do that when he gets goals coming from the bench. He gets the nod on the next match day, which is good to see from Daniel Jepson once again on the score sheet, and it's good because, Canada's circling him. Heading on over to France, this is just more of a fun informational session on Jonathan David because there were no games he featured in as Lille actually played Lens today in the Cup over in France. And unfortunately for Lille, they went up 2-0 with a nice brace from Onana, but it was cancelled out by a brace from Fofana and then ended up losing in a shootout as Lens eliminated Lille. It was a big blow because I would have liked to see a nice little cup run coming in from Jonathan David. But on top of that, David had to miss the game because he picked up COVID, which is a shame, and then that ruled him out of this match. But looking on the funner side of things, it was established for Jonathan David, and this is some transfer update information for you guys, that Jonathan David will be leaving Lille at the end of the season. He will not be leaving in January, so there were some suitors looking at him potentially in January, but it was established that this is going to be the last season at Lille. He's going to leave in the summertime, which I personally think is the right decision for Jonathan David. And there's a couple of these names that have continued to circle out there. There's been Liverpool, Real Madrid has been a name that has come up as well. I don't know how much I like the Madrid one, just because I don't know where he would play, but given that Benzema is getting older, it's incredibly amazing to see that Jonathan David has been linked with Real Madrid. And then interestingly enough, we go from Liverpool, Madrid down to West Ham. And it was reported that West Ham were a little put off by the 45 million euro price tag on Jonathan David. But regardless, I wouldn't really want to see him to go to West Ham anyways. But it's pretty cool seeing some of the transfers coming around him. And so I'm curious and want to ask, where do you guys want to see Jonathan David leave come the summertime? Because that's where it's looking more likely for him to go. There's a couple different options that I could see him going. I still am a big fan of the Inter Milan just because I like that 3-5-2 setup and he could play in that striker role. But I'm curious to throw it over to you guys. Where do you think Jonathan David will be playing football at the start of next season? Heading on over to Portugal now, taking a look at Stefan Vitoria and his side, Moreirense. There's a couple of different matchups we get to touch on. The first one was the midweek matchup where Vitoria started and played all 90 minutes as a central center back in the 3-4-3 formation as Moreirense won 1-0 over Estoril, which was a big result because they were finding wins hugely challenging to come by this season. It's great to see them pick up 3 big points, but on the weekend, once again, Vitoria was able to play all 90 minutes, again at that central center back position in a 3-4-3 system, but this time they lost 2-1 to Tondela, which is a shame because that allows them to still sit in those relegation places. They're sitting right now in 16th place in the table with a 2-6-8 record. Picking up 3 points was drastically important. This side is, in my opinion, a little bit better than competing for those relegation spots. We need to see them a little bit get more consistent, but it's still once again great to see Vitoria get in the amount of minutes that he is, still staying fit, still staying as a talented central center back that he is, and it's important to see for Canada come the next window. Staying in Portugal, but moving over to Paços de Ferreira, we're taking a look at Stefan Eustáquio, who had a pretty good game to talk about. I'm excited to talk about it as Eustáquio was able to start and play all 90 minutes as a central mid in that 4-3-3 system that we like to see him in. He was able to get up assist in that match as well as Paços won 2-1 over Santa Clara as well, and a couple wins getting in a row for them, showing that form. Danielson got a brace as well, as that puts him up to 10th in the table right now with a 4-5-7 record. This was a team that obviously really overachieved last season, got Eustáquio in the kind of form that he was to represent for Canada, and we still want to see him move on. We'd still love to see that Napoli and Porto transfer that we've heard rumors about, but it's good to see his club side start getting a little bit of that form, getting a couple wins in a row, and still seeing Eustáquio being a vital piece of his team at club level, as well as getting an assist in there. It's good stuff and a good week from Eustáquio as well, leading into our games coming up in January, because he is the man who pulls the strings in the midfield, and he's currently on good form. Alright guys, moving on to Stefan Mitrović. He did not play because he's on a pretty big break with his club side, but there is some transfer news, and a big shout out to Thomas Neff from, of course, the podcast that I've been on, and hopefully you guys have checked out, the Northern Football Podcast. And he allowed me to use his tweet, which I'm going to bring up on screen for you guys to take a look at. And it's Stefan Mitrović has official offer to join Red Star Belgrade. It goes over some other offers that his agent talks about: Club Bruges, Genk, Bologna, Leicester City. There's also Bavista, Partizan. There's a lot of different clubs that are going after this talented young man. And the interesting thing, which I thought he reported on, was that the mid-January decision will be taken, and it's told that he's 100% moving this window. A lot of different clubs in there. The big important thing for me is to see him move on and play. I like the Leicester link. I just don't know where the amount of minutes would come from. I'm kind of leaning towards Bologna, maybe even Genk or Club Bruges would be a good home for him. But very talented kid. Can't wait to see where he goes. And guys, let me know in the comments where you'd like to see Stefan move, if he indeed, which it looks likely, moves in this January transfer window. Heading on over to Turkey now, guys. We are taking a look at our three amigos over in Turkey, but we're going to start with the duo at Besiktas. And we're going to start with Atiba Hutchinson, who They had a cup match to touch on this week as he started and played 70 minutes as a center mid in a 4-1-4-1 system, a system that Besiktas has been so well known for. To see him back in the heart of that midfield, it's good to see for Hutchinson. And on top of that, he got the only goal of the game. Hutchinson getting in there on the scoring act, which is good to see as Besiktas went on to win 1-0 in the round of 32 to move on to the round of 16. Big performance there from Atiba Hutchinson, which is pretty cool to see. There's not too much to touch on in terms of that same match for our friend Cyle Larin. As in that match, Cyle Larin was subbed on in the 82nd minute for the left midfielder position in, again, that 4-1-4-1, which is where we saw Larin play a lot last season. I am a fan of the 4-1-4-1. I've seen it played a lot of different times and thought Besiktas did very well utilizing its strength last season. But there wasn't too much for Larin to touch on as he got subbed on late in the game. Didn't have a crazy impact, but there are some fun rumors to touch on with Cyle Larin, as these are just loose rumors, but it does look like he's not going to re-sign with Besiktas, which means he will be a free agent in the summer and he can start negotiating for a free transfer with clubs in January. On top of that, these are some of the clubs that potential links have been went to, as well as talks in the Premier League have went with West Ham, Watford, and Newcastle circling around, but also the League links, which I think are interesting. There's a big one which I've touched on, and it is Marseille, but an interesting one which I think would be almost a perfect transfer for me, and that's Lille. Again, very loose rumors coming in that Lille are interested, but at the end of the season, Jonathan David moves on and Cyle Larin comes in to replace him. I mean, it's perfect. So, I mean, you know where I'm shooting for. I would love to see Cyle Larin make it. I know that those Premier League links are interesting, and out of those teams, I'd prefer West Ham, but they have Antonio there, and Larin, if he's going to go somewhere, he has to play. That is a big part of it with me, and it just makes so much sense. Jonathan David wants to take that next move. He's ready for that next move. Wherever he may go, hopefully he plays, but there's now a hole in that Lille team, and if Cyle Larin comes in on a free transfer, that's good business for Lille, and he'll come in there and hopefully do a good job as well and get some guaranteed minutes. So that's an interesting one, and again, I want to get your guys' opinions down in the comments where you think Cyle Larin will be playing his football come next season. Moving on to Samuel Adakubi and his side Hasselspor, who was in a cup match as well in the round of 32, where Adakubi started at a left back in the 4-2-3-1 setup, playing all 90 minutes as Hasselspor won 1-0 in the round of 32 as well to move on to the round of 16. A good little match from Adakubi, getting back to thing as he's been in really good form. As a player, I've been very highly spoke of this season, but he was having a bit of an interesting spell the last few games, so it's good to see him get back on things, getting a clean sheet as well from the back and seeing his side move on to the next round in the cup. And sticking with Turkey, guys, we're going to give you guys an update on Ferdie Kakuju, which you guys have probably heard, but he has chosen to represent Turkey. It's not a big surprise. We know his options were Turkey, the Netherlands, and Canada, but he didn't show pretty much any interest in representing Canada, and on top of that, probably not ready to challenge and play in the Netherlands, and Turkey really wanted him. He's obviously going to sign a long-term deal with Fenerbahce, so it just made a lot of sense. So this will be our last time touching on Ferdie Kakuju. It was always a kind of a, not dream, but it was always not real reality that I ever thought he was going to represent Canada, and he's chosen to represent Turkey, so we wish him the best of luck, and this will be our last time touching on him. And alright guys, that brings us to an end to this episode of our Canadian national team abroad. Just one little fun tidbit of information is Tajon Buchanan has joined up with his side, Club Brugge, going to be meeting his teammates and having hopefully a good opportunity to impress, because the manager has now moved on and taken the AS Monaco job with Niko Kovac getting sacked there. So some interesting news coming out of Club Brugge. You're going to have to find a new manager, and it's interesting, and you can take it what you will, but when you make that January move, you have to go into a team that's already playing under a manager that they have been used to. Now there's going to be a new manager coming in, and Tajon is going to be new just like every other player on that team. So I actually think the move could work in Tajon's benefit to be able to integrate quicker, and hopefully if he immediately can impress the manager, then he can get that foot in and get into the starting 11. But it's good to see you guys. I'm excited to be back. Hope you guys do enjoy this episode of our Canadian national team abroad series, rounding up the week of December 28th. To January 4th, guys. So if you haven't yet, be sure to drop a like on your way out. Let me know all your thoughts on the episodes and all the players we touched on. Drop a like, drop a sub, and we'll see you guys next time. Cheers, friends.